Hey everybody, Canadian Operator here, and today we're going to be doing our first cleaning video on the brand new Canadian Operator gun mat X95 edition. And if you couldn't see it coming, yeah, we're going to be cleaning the X95. This is possibly one of my favorite rifles in my collection, as it's probably one of the coolest and most futuristic looking, but it's also super easy to clean, and that's why I thought it might be a good idea to start with this one. This is a semi-automatic rifle in a bullpup configuration, chambered in 5.56 NATO, which means it's very easy to shoot and even easier to clean. Before we get started, I'm going to leave some links down in the description below for our Discord, as well as all of my Amazon affiliate links if you're interested in any of the products. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it really does help the channel, as well as liking and sharing the video if you found it especially helpful. So with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. First things first, though, of course, we're going to have to talk about the items that we'll need to get the cleaning underway, and before we can even talk about the cleaning items, we need to put on some PPE just to be safe. First and foremost, of course, some glasses. Next, we're going to use some gloves. Nice. Next up, I'm going to be using this Otis cleaning kit. I really like this because it includes everything that I need, including patches, a cable to run everything through, as well as an assortment of brushes to do some scrubbing. Of course, we're going to need some patches as well, so I have both cotton square patches as well as cotton round patches with little holes cut in them. These ones are specifically made for the Otis kit and makes cleaning your bore pretty easy. So let's go ahead and put those off to the side, and then we've just got a few more things to go. Of course, you're going to need a cleaner, and I like using this Lucas all-in-one cleaner. Seems to do a pretty good job. It seems to be alcohol-based and dries up pretty quick and cleans stuff on contact, which is pretty ideal. It's also aerosolized, so it makes cleaning pretty simple. I made a video about my cleaning products, so if you haven't seen that, make sure to go check it out up there. After cleaning, of course, we'll need to lubricate and protect as well, so I have this break-free CLP gun oil here, but of course you can use any gun oil that you like, including Hoppy's No. 9 and Lucas's own gun oil, which I'll try to link in the description below. However, some of these items are not available on Amazon, so I would encourage you to go to your local gun store and help support local gun businesses, while of course getting the items that you need to clean your firearms. Last but not least, you'll want to get yourself a punch set just like this. It comes with a variety of different sizes of punch, which will help you to remove stubborn pins that get in the way of cleaning and maintaining your firearm. And in most cases, you do also get a hammer like this with a rubber and a plastic side, which help you to get rid of extra stubborn pins. These come in a kit, and I'll make sure to link that in the description below. The last thing I'd recommend is getting yourself an empty magazine like this LAR-15 mag here, as well as a couple of snap caps. Snap caps are dummy rounds, if you don't know. They're manufactured in all the popular calibers, and they allow you to function check your firearm to make sure that it's working correctly before you take it out to the range and are met with bitter disappointment knowing that you've done something wrong and then you've just essentially ruined your entire day. This is the best place to catch those errors, fix them, and then go out and enjoy shooting. So with that, let's go ahead and pop this open and start doing some cleaning. Okay, so first things first, we're going to need to open up the back here because all of the action on this firearm is in the back, and you're looking to pop out this pin. Now this is a captive pin, so it's going to stay in, which is actually quite nice. And we're going to start by flipping the gun over, moving it just a little bit. Now it suffices to say that I've already checked that this firearm is clear. We never have any ammunition around the firearm when we're working on it. Likewise, we don't have any firearms around when we're checking out ammunition. Just something I'd like to mention because of course a lot of folks do things very differently. So just make sure to always be safe. Never have ammunition around when you're working on your firearm. Let's go ahead and grab one of our punches. I think this one will probably do. And then we're going to go ahead and basically just push this little pin in. So that should push in with relatively little effort, and I'm going to move this over so you can kind of see what's going on here. So this is going to open up like this, and then your pin is going to be out like this. You do want to make sure that when you're ready to put stuff back in that your pin isn't pushed in, otherwise you won't be able to put anything inside and the buttstock or the rubber butt pad here won't close. So do make sure that's pulled out all the way, and again, don't worry, this is not going to go anywhere on you. And we're going to move forward a little bit. I'll see if I can get you a slightly better angle here. This is basically where all your bolt carrier, bolt, firing pin, and all that stuff is going to be. So you just want to grab it with your 2 fingers and then just pull it out. So there we go. And now if I can show you, maybe, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that very well, but if you can see in there, you're going to be able to see that we have basically really easy access to our chamber, and basically you can see all the way through the barrel too, which is really quite nice. Now, I have to confess something to you guys. I've already cleaned this. I am going to show you step by step how to do everything. However, I already cleaned it. And the reason for that is because I've already shot this video once about 2 days ago. And unfortunately, my camera died. The battery just wasn't enough. And I lost about like half my footage. So let's go ahead and just show you how everything's done. We're going to put this away for a moment as we work on cleaning the bore inside the firearm, but we will come back to this. So if you just want to know how to clean this up, you can skip forward in the video. I'll see if I can leave some timestamps for you. So that being said, we're actually going to go and flip this back over. And one thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have access to our ejection port here, and of course we will, because we've already taken out the insides. Now, if you don't want the gun to be laying down too much or being propped up too much, you can push that pin that you just pulled out back in temporarily. Just make sure to push it back out when you're ready to put everything back in. So the next thing is I'm going to grab my Otis kit, and again, you can do this a number of different ways. There's no right or wrong way per se to do this. Some guys like using a paracord like this, or like aircraft wire or something like that, to pull patches through the bore. I'm that particular kind of guy. Of course, there are other guys that just absolutely swear by cleaning rods and using spacers and all this kind of stuff. And if that's you, then that's okay too. The most important thing is that we just pull something through the bore here and we get it nice and clean on the inside. That's pretty much it. As long as you're doing that, you're going to be absolutely fine. So we're going to take this apart. And what I really like about these little kits, and I'm not sponsored by these guys, but hey, Otis, if you want to work together, call me. We have 2 ends on this, and this is actually a really nice flexible wire. It almost feels like a bike lock, but if I show you this a little bit closer, you can see that one is basically a female thread that we can put stuff on, which we'll do later on. And then we do also have this other one here, which is going to allow us to put a patch through. I'll see if I can get a little closer for you. I know I'm trying to focus that. Let me see if I can do it this way. There we go. Okay, so you can see that this is where we're going to be putting the patch through. So what's really simple about this is you just use these little patches here. They're fairly inexpensive. You can get them online. You can even just get these regular round patches if you don't want to get the ones from Otis that have the holes in them, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second as soon as I can separate these two. Yeah, let's just do this. There we go. Okay, put this down for a second and let me show you what this looks like. So you may or may not be able to see, but there are some holes here. We've got one hole right there. We've got another hole right there, and then another one right there. So those holes are for the end here to put through. So what you would do ideally is you would put your little tip there through there. Let's see if I can get a little closer so you can see what that looks like. And then you'll hold this part here with your thumb. You're going to pinch the end of this, and then you're going to put it through, and then you're going to pull. Once you've done that, then you're going to straighten up the bottom and pull that over the rest of it. And once you've done that, you're going to end up with something like this. And this is actually really nice because if you can see it this way, it's in a bit of a conical shape. And of course, that is going to be very, very similar to the shape of your bore. And that's going to allow you to very easily clean out all the gunk inside your bore. Now, I'm not going to pull this through again just because I've already cleaned out my bore, but I'll show you how to do it. You may need a flashlight and basically look in through the bottom or the back of the gun to see where the bore is, or where the chamber is. For me, I've gotten a pretty good feel of it already, so that's basically what that looks like. I'll take that out again and put it back in just so I can kind of show you. So we're going to kind of take that with it pointing up a little bit, and we're just going to go straight in. You'll feel it go in through the breech, through the chamber, and then you're just going to basically put it through. Now, obviously, you wouldn't start with a dry cloth like this. You'd want to use some of your cleaner. So usually I would give this a little bit of a spray before I put it in there, and then you would just run this through and clean it up. Basically pull it all the way through your bore from the chamber all the way out, the muzzle on the other side. Okay, and once you've done that and you've gotten a little bit of your cleaner, the stuff here or whatever you happen to be using, through your barrel, through your bore, that's basically going to start eating away at the carbon that's inside the barrel. And that's good because it's going to start breaking apart some of that stuff that might have been stuck on there for a while. The next step is that you want to start to scrape some of that stuff off, and that's going to help you to clean it all out and brush it all away later on. So the next thing that we're going to do then is we're going to look inside the kit here, and while you do also get a nice chamber brush, unfortunately the handle that you get with this is not going to be long enough to go inside here, because this is basically just the design of the gun is going to prohibit that, because it's really quite deep in there. You're going to have it right about here. But what you do want is you want to grab this thing. That's going to be basically your bore brush. Let's see if I can get a little closer here so you can see that. Right? So that's your bore brush. And all we're going to do is we're just going to attach that to the female end. So as you can see here, we've got the female end, and we're just going to attach that in here. And there you go. Pretty simple, right? So now that you've got that attached, we're going to put this in the other way around, and you can leave that tip attached if you want. You can take it off if you want. It's really up to you. It's brass, so it's not going to damage any of the steel components inside the rifle. But again, what you want to do is you want to pull that through, and then when you pull that brush through, what that brush is going to do is it's going to clean. I'll just pull it through here. No harm done. It's going to clean all the gunk off the inside of the bore. Now, this is important because this bronze brush is going to be able to scrape away a lot of the carbon that's been built up inside the barrel, which is not something that you might be able to do just with a regular cotton cloth. So you'll want to pull it through about maybe 2 or 3 times, depending on how much you've used your firearm recently. So basically the next step then is you're going to want to put another one of these patches on. And this time we're not going to put any cleaner, no oil, nothing like that. We're just going to run the patch through dry. And again, the reason for that is because you've already soaked it with the cleaner on the inside. It's already started to work on some of the carbon inside the barrel, inside the bore. And then we've also run the brush through it, which has even more lodged away all that very stubborn carbon that's inside. So what we want to do is we want to just gently brush that away with a clean patch. So all you need is just a regular patch. Don't wet this, don't do anything with it. Pull it all the way through. And then once you're done that, what you want to do is you want to go and get yourself some lube. Of course, you want to use your discretion. When the patches, or the dry patches that is, start to get a little bit cleaner looking, you want to put a few drops of this on a new clean patch, and then you want to run that through several times. And I know that a lot of you are going to say, well, what's the point of running oil through your barrel? I mean, isn't it just going to get dirty again? Isn't it just going to get fouled up, and the oil is just going to attract more carbon, and what's the point? Well, the point isn't so much to lubricate the barrel, because you're right, we're going to be putting stuff through at about 3,000 feet a second. It's not really going to mean anything for that. But the idea is that the oil sometimes does attract more carbon than the cleaner. The cleaner is much better at loosening the carbon, but the oil will attract it. And so with running a little bit of a slightly damp oil-soaked patch through, you're going to pick up some of that stuff that was left behind by the cleaner, by the brush, and so on. And so by having these 3 different processes, you can basically just make sure that there's nothing in there but steel, and make sure that everything is nice and clean. Once you've done that, you're basically done with the gun, and we're just going to move on and do a little bit of cleaning on the bolt as well as the bolt carrier, and then lube everything up before we stick it back in the gun. So let me clean this up a little bit and I'll be right back with you. All right, so moving on, we're going to look at the insides here. This is going to be your bolt carrier, your bolt, your firing pin, your main recoil spring, and so on. This is very, very simple. It's not too hard to do. Just follow along and you'll be fine. One of the things that I would recommend is to get yourself some of that blue shop towel. Again, I'll try to link that in the description below. I wouldn't recommend working just on this beautiful gun mat by itself, because of course we're using some cleaners and some oils and different kinds of chemicals which might damage the mat. So keep that in mind. I'm not doing it now because, again, I've already cleaned it. However, if you are doing this where you're doing a lot of cleaning, and especially contact cleaning with the Lucas gun cleaner, you do want to make sure that you're putting some kind of paper towel under here. And again, I really like that blue shop towel. It tends to work quite well. One of the other things, of course, you're going to need is you need to get yourself a blue polymer brush, just like this, for doing some brushing. And of course, we're going to need one of our faithful pins here as well. And also, we're going to need a little bit of CLP. And of course, we're going to need a little bit of gun cleaner as well. So let's go ahead and get started with this. First thing you'll need to do is, let's get this stuff out of the way. You're going to have this bar here. Now, this bar can be a little tricky because it just moves back and forth like this. You want to essentially pull the bar out this way. You want to try not to pull too hard, but you are definitely going to have to put on some pressure because this bar basically prevents this pin from coming out. So we're going to give it a little bit of pressure here. Try not to pull out too much. There we go. Okay. So that little click is all you need. That bar is still going to stay in place. If you've pulled it where it's kind of come out and it's wobbling a bit, you've pulled it too far. So that little click is all you need. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have this pin right over here. Let's see if I can point to it. This thing right here. So this is what we're going to need to take out. So I'm going to flip this over and we're just going to push it from the inside. And this is already very well lubricated. So there's a very good chance that it is going to come out quite easily. Yours might not come out as easily, but if it doesn't, just keep in mind, you might have to put a little pressure on it. Now do keep in mind, I'll see if I can get a little closer for you, the direction that that's facing. So you want that flat side on the right, okay? So we're going to put that off to the side, and that's going to allow us to bring the bolt out. But before we bring the bolt out, you do also want to take notice. Let's see if I can bring this up a little closer so you can see it. There's the firing pin, the back of the firing pin there, and just note the direction that that's facing as well. There is a flat side and a round side to the firing pin, and essentially what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're putting that firing pin back in, and I'll show you when we're doing that, that round side of the firing pin is grasping the little lip there so it doesn't fall in, okay? And then this is your bolt, so all we're going to do, we're going to pull that bolt right out, okay? So there's the bolt right there. Again, keep in mind the direction that this little opening is facing up here. So we're just going to put that down. And then we're going to just grab the firing pin. You might have to give it a little bit of a wiggle. We'll put this down. And then you've got your firing pin here. I don't know if you can see that so well. Yeah, there we go. Maybe like that. That'd be better. That's your firing pin. You've got your firing pin spring here. And then this is, let me see if I can get a little closer. That is the head of the firing pin. I'm not 100% sure how in focus that is, but you can see that part of it is round. This part of it here is flat, okay? So something to keep in mind. And essentially at this point, that is all the disassembly you're really going to need to do for a little bit more of a thorough clean. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to give this a bit of a spray down. So we're going to grab this. And of course, again, I'm not going to do this here because I've already done it, but you want to have some thick paper towel under here. And then you want to give this a spray. Just kind of spray the whole thing. The most important thing is the stuff in the middle. And then of course, you do want to make sure that you get both sides. If you get on the other side as well. And because this is basically what's going to be moving quite often when you're shooting, this is your main action, so it's going to be seeing a lot of wear, and you're going to be seeing carbon buildup and stuff here as well. One of the other things that you want to spray down and clean, of course, is your bolt. So you're going to want to make sure that you pay special attention to the locking lugs there, and then of course the inside of it here as well. You just want to scrub the whole thing down. And then, of course, you'll also want to make sure that you clean up your firing pin. So I do this in a couple of different ways. One of the ways that I do it is, of course, I'll use the polymer brush. Now, you can spray the actual items yourself and then brush it, or you can spray the brush and then brush it. If you want to use a little bit less of your cleaner, then spraying your brush might be a better idea. But if it's especially gunked up, you might want to just put a little paper towel underneath and just give it a good spray. And this contact cleaner is really, really good. This will clean up most of the stuff that you need. Then what you want to do is very much in the same way that we cleaned the bore, right? Where we were putting sort of a wet patch through, then we were putting a brush through. So this is our brush for that. What's going to come after that? Well, we need to clean and lubricate and everything and protect it, right? So basically, once you're done with your brush and you've loosened up all the crap, you want to then grab yourself some of these square patches and you want to add a little bit of oil or cleaner. It's up to you. If it's still really dirty, add a little bit of cleaner. But then once you're starting to see these kind of come out a little bit more white than you would expect, you want to add a little bit of oil. And again, just go over every single part with a little bit of oil. That'll help to lubricate it, of course, but that oil will pick up any residual residue that you might have, any residual carbon, anything like that. And after you're done that, essentially you want to lubricate it up again. So the way that I would recommend for you to do this is, we'll start with the firing pin. The firing pin, you do not need to lubricate. It's just a pin. It is going to be moving, but you really don't need to lubricate it. Plus, any amount of lubrication that it would ever need, which is probably very little, if any at all, would have already been applied to it by you just cleaning it with one of those little cloths, with one of those little square patches, with a couple of dabs of oil on it, just to clean it up nice. When you get a nice shine like this, you can see it's nice and clean. There's nothing else that you need to do with that. Now, of course, with your bolt, you're going to want to make sure that you pay special attention to your locking lugs. And generally what I like to do is, instead of using a cloth like the one I showed you before, for lubricating specifically, I like to just use my fingers. I'll put a little dab of oil, maybe 1 or 2 drops, and then I'll just kind of dab it a little bit with my finger, and that will ensure that there's enough oil that's going to stay on there where it's not dripping, but at the same time it's nicely lubricated, because these locking lugs are going to be well, they're a big part of your safety mechanism in terms of, you know, they do lock to make sure that the back of your gun doesn't fly out when you shoot under all those pressures. But the bolt is one of the singular most things that's going to be doing probably the most movement, and it's probably one of the highest wear items in your gun. So you do want to make sure you take care of it, and then just lubricate it everywhere as well. Again, you want to pay special attention to the locking lugs, and you want to pay special attention to this little opening here. But again, generally speaking, you're going to have a little residue, little residual oil on your fingers. Just go over the whole thing, right? It doesn't hurt. And then, of course, the last thing is that you want to put a little bit of oil on these rails. The rails I'm going to show you how to do a little bit later once we got everything else back in. But essentially, you're going to want to put a little bit of oil there, a little bit of oil there, and you flip that over, and then you're going to have a little bit more oil right here in the middle, maybe just a drop or 2, and another one on this rail up here, because those are the 2 main rails that are going to be seeing the most action. Okay, and then again, otherwise you can just kind of go over this whole thing with you know, a little piece of patch like this that's had a little, you know, a couple of drops of oil just to clean it up really nice. Well, that's pretty much it. So we're ready to put everything back together. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our firing pin. And the way that I like to orient the firing pin is orient the circular part down, because essentially there's a little lip that's in there. So when we're putting the firing pin in, that lip is going to be held onto by the circular part, and that's what's going to stop the firing pin from going back. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. I know this might be a bit of a weird angle, but we're going to put that back in. Okay, so you can see the firing pin's right there. And there we go. Okay, so once you've got the circular part on the bottom there, you want to put your finger on that little piece of the firing pin, on the head of the firing pin, and then as you can see here, that firing pin is sticking out just a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our bolt, we're going to put it through the firing pin and inside. And you're going to want to use, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see through that little hole there. I'll see if I can allow more light to pass through. There's a little hole right there. You want to look through that, and you want to orient the bolt so that basically the hole is as open as possible in here. Once you've done that, you can basically hang on to it like this, because you're putting pressure on the bolt. That's putting pressure on the firing pin by means of the firing pin spring. Next thing that you want to do is you want to grab your pin that we took out. Remember that we're going to have that flat side facing to the right, and we're just going to put that back in. Now you may have to wiggle it around a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, so you may have to wiggle this around a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be hard to see in there when you've got the pin in, because of course, but you'll know you've done it right when this is sitting flush to the rest of the body of the bolt carrier, and when you push the bolt and you can feel the bolt rotating and pushing against the firing pin spring. That's when you know you've done it right. The last thing you want to do is you want to pull this back down, just like that. It's going to snap a little bit, so don't worry about that. And now you should have this rod moving freely again. So that's absolutely fine. You can check the action as well. You see that that works fine, right? So you're all good to go. So now the last thing that we need to do is we need to put a little bit of lube there and there. And you want to flip that over and put a little bit of lube there and right there. Now again, I've done this. I'm going to do it again just very quickly off camera. And then that's it. You're pretty much done. You can put all this other stuff away. You're not going to need your pin or your brush or anything like that. And then we can bring the gun back and put this back in the gun. And we should be good to go. So let me go grab the Tavor and then we'll finish this up. Okay, so we've got the Tavor back. I'm going to move this down a little bit just so it's a little easier. And essentially, again, all you need to do is just the opposite of what you did to take it out, right? So we've only got 2 arms, so I want to try to do this the best way that I can. If I can show this to you. So we've got it just like that, and we're going to put this in just like this. I don't know if that's easy to see. So it's going to go in just like that. And of course, you want to move that pin out of the way, as I mentioned earlier. It kind of fell for my own thing there, but yeah, you want to get that pin out of the way. This is going to go straight in, just like that. And then all we need to do is just close this up. I like to just hold my fingers up on the top of the cheek rest, use my thumb to hold the rubber butt pad here, and then you're just going to push. You're going to push that pin back in. Okay, and then there you go. So you've got one cleaned Tavor. Of course, if you want, you can get those patches back out again. You know, I like to put a couple of dabs of oil, and then I just like to clean up, especially around this area, mostly on the other side of the gun. That's where the ejection's going to be. But yeah, I like to use a little tiny bit of oil just to clean it up, give it that nice luster, and then we're good to go. So the last thing, of course, that we need to do is we need to make sure that we have a function check going on so that everything is working correctly. So we've got our little magazine here loaded with 2 snap caps. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. These are snap caps. These are not real rounds. I'm going to do my best to do this without knocking the camera over. So I'll kind of show you what this looks like. I'm going to go ahead and pop this open. We're going to hold the bolt open like that. All right, and we're going to put our magazine in. This is very tricky to do just with one hand. All right, there we go. And we're going to close this. So that should have chambered around. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pull on the charging handle. And that ejected around. We'll try it again. Okay, and that ejected around. And then we also have the last round hold open there as well. So we are good to go. All right, folks, and that's it. You've got yourself one nice, clean Tavor ready for the range. The function check is done. You know everything is good to go. And now you can go put this in a bag and go have some fun. So if you found this video helpful, it does really, really help the channel if you become a subscriber. If you've not done so already, make sure to like the video, share it with your friends. Again, that really helps the algorithm for this kind of content to get out to more people. If you'd like to join the conversation, we have a Discord. Link will be down below. And of course, all my Amazon links will be there as well if you'd like to pick up anything that you saw here today. That being said, you can also pick up this beautiful CanadianOperator gun mat X95 edition on my Etsy store, which, believe it or not, is also linked down in the description below. And hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. And until then, happy shooting.